We are continuing on with our draft coverage over here on NFL Central. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about safety out of Ohio State, Caleb Downs. And can he drop out of the top 10? There is somebody that believes he may very well do so. And then on the back end of today's episode, we're going to talk about the package that the Dallas Cowboys offered the Las Vegas Raiders for Maxx Crosby. It's a very interesting offer, and they made three of them. But before we talk about it, break it all down, you already know. You got to hear the music first.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, football fans, and welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and I'm holding it down for today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in, love talking football, regardless of who you root for, go ahead and join the NFL Central family. We love football over here. Hit that like button and subscribe as well, man. And hey, we're going to talk about Caleb Downs today, but if there's a prospect that you want us to go out there and discuss, leave said player down in the comment box, and me and Steve-O will do our best to get to said player and let you all know how we feeling about whatever player you drop in the comment box. But hey, on today's episode, we're going to spend our time talking about Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State, who is highly regarded in a lot of people's eyes as being the top safety in this year's draft, and rightfully so, man. Just last year, 68 total tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. And this is a guy that transferred from Alabama to Ohio State. And in that year, he played with Alabama. This guy, Caleb Downs, had 107 total tackles. Crazy work. 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and a forced fumble. I'm of the mindset that he will not fall out of the top 10, but there is somebody that's out there that believes he will drop out of the top 10. And it kind of is, I believe it's fair, but I don't necessarily agree with the comments because I'm seeing a lot of mock drafts have him, Caleb Downs, that is, being selected as high as 2 to the Jets and as far back as 10 to the Cincinnati Bengals. So we'll see what happens with that. But Mike Mayock came out and said some things, and we know that you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's just his opinion. He's had his strong opinions before, some on Caleb Williams, some on Jackson Dart, et cetera, et cetera. And some of those have been misses, but we all miss. But this is what he had to say about Caleb Downs. He said he's a first-round safety. Gotcha. I'm in. I think he's smart. I think he's instinctive. I think he's tough. I think he can play in the box. He can play free. So he does all those things. I don't see as many dynamic plays on the ball that you will like to see from a top 10 safety. So that's the quote from Mike Mayock. How are you all feeling about that? I'm going to say you don't necessarily have to have a bunch of crazy plays to go out there and prove your worth. But can you go out there and absolutely do your job? He just said that the man was instinctive. The man is not afraid to go out there and tackle. No, the interception numbers are not crazy, just 2 on a season. But that does not mean he can't go in and fill the void for a team that needs a safety. Whether that's going, let's just say for the sake of discussion, if the Giants have some type of interest in him within that top 5, or if the Kansas City Chiefs feel like now that they sent on some of their defensive backs, maybe they can utilize him as a versatile defender. And the biggest thing is, if he does fall to Cincinnati, they need that type of player on their defense, as they have to build out a defense that is good enough to at least get some stops for that high-powered offense in Joe Burrow leading the charge. You absolutely have to. And again, I've seen mocks that had him as high as 2, and there are some mocks that have him as far back as 10 going to the Cincinnati Bengals. But the biggest question is, if he does fall out of the top 10, where will he land? You have the Dallas Cowboys, who could potentially use a safety at 12. You have the Jets with another pick at 16. So maybe they can utilize that. Maybe the Jets don't want to go so high on them at 2 because honestly, that'll be kind of crazy. But if he does slip out of that top 10, it's going to be interesting to see where he will land. Simply because there are teams that need safeties. One of them is the Chicago Bears. They need safety help as well. Will they be bold enough, depending on how far he falls, to trade up for a guy like Caleb Downs? I don't think that's very realistic for the Chicago Bears, knowing the organization in and out. But I do think that there will be some teams, maybe the Minnesota Vikings, who fall a little bit further down of the draft order at 18. Maybe instead of going after Dylan Thineman, who has been mocked to the Minnesota Vikings at that particular moment, maybe they go out there and get the best safety that's available, which would be Caleb Downs if they stand pat, or if he slips far enough and see him go past the number of teams, do they go out there and get aggressive and go and get a guy like Caleb Downs? I don't necessarily believe that he will drop out of the top 10, but it's absolutely one thing that we know could potentially happen because we've seen it time and time again throughout the NFL draft. A lot of the times we say, hey, this guy is going to go early, and typically we see guys fall. We just literally witnessed the craziest fall from the draft we have ever seen, or at least in recent memory, with the Shador Sanders sweepstakes. I don't necessarily think that Caleb Downs is going to fall all the way to the 5th round, obviously, but I do think there's a chance, you know what I'm saying, that things could shake out however teams are going to shake it out. And he could potentially fall out at least out of the top 10, simply because there's been people trying to go out there and place different articles on Caleb Downs. We had some crazy person on Twitter go out there and create this narrative that at the NFL combine, doctors found that he had a degenerative knee, excuse me, and we came to find out that that was absolutely not true. He has a clean record of being healthy, at least up until this point. So there is a number of things that's, going through the whirlwinds with rumors and stuff that can possibly, have him fall out of the top 10 if people don't do their due diligence. Now, one thing that has me considering before we move on to talk about what was revealed in the Maxx Crosby trade is that what if, for the sake of discussion, Jeremiah Love goes earlier than expected? That can change a couple teams draft. What if Sony Styles goes, at 5 to the New York Giants? That can change some things. What if one of these defensive tackles who is slotted at the mid to late round goes a little bit earlier because a team feels like they have to go get their guy? That can affect a lot of these players, and we've seen it time and time again. A lot of the time, these teams, they like to throw out the smoke screen and have people believe one thing when that actual organization who's up to make a selection is thinking something else. So it's going to be interesting. Again, I don't think that Caleb Downs will fall out of the top 10. That's my thoughts. You let me know your thoughts below. Do you believe Caleb Downs will fall out of the top 10? I say no. What say you? And now we move on to the reported trade package that the Dallas Cowboys offered for Maxx Crosby. We did hear that the Chicago Bears had interest. The Dallas Cowboys had interest before he was ultimately traded to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 first-round picks and then ultimately sent back because they did not like what was on their medical records when they did their physical to look at Maxx Crosby. Some reports are saying that one of the doctors felt like he had a degenerative knee, that word again, and so they ultimately made the decision to send Maxx Crosby back to Vegas. But according to ESPN's Ryan McFadden, the Cowboys proposed 3 different deals for Maxx Crosby. Hey, if you're my Dallas Cowboy fans, you shouldn't be mad because they tried. They just couldn't get the deal done. And ultimately, it may end up working out better for the Dallas Cowboys. So you got to be happy with it. But Ryan McFadden said this, And these were the three deals that were offered. Excuse me. He said that the initial offers centered around Dallas' second first round pick at number 20 and defensive tackle Osa Odigizua. Osa. I'm not trying to butcher his name. Odigizua. There we go. Osa Odigizua. So the first offer was the first round pick at number 20 and defensive tackle Osa Odigizua. The Cowboys then offered their top first rounder at number 12 and a third round pick. Ultimately, the Cowboys moved to number 12 in their second round pick, but the last two offers, sources said, did not include Odigizua, who was traded ultimately to the San Francisco 49ers. And in that trade, the Dallas Cowboys, they went out and traded Osa Odigizua to the San Francisco 49ers for a 2026 third round pick, ultimately washing their hands with the Maxx Crosby trade. And sometimes that's just business. I'm not mad at the Dallas Cowboys for doing that, because I'm looking at a way that if you go out there and you would have acquired Maxx Crosby to pair with Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark, man, that would have been a tough defensive front for the Dallas Cowboys. As much shit as they get, that would have been a real home run hit for Jerry Jones. Now, I will say trading for Quinnen Williams and getting Kenny Clark plus the 2 first-round picks was already a home run hit. A lot of people were going to look at the Micah Parsons deal and say that the Dallas Cowboys absolutely lost. You couldn't give him up, da-da-da-da. But this is a player that they couldn't come to terms with. So instead of waiting like the Las Vegas Raiders did, they went out there and swung for the fences early, and they got a deal that was feasible for them. And even though they couldn't, obtain Maxx Crosby, they're still now left with 2 first-round picks to potentially go out there and get more pass rush help, go out there and pretty much take the best players available on the defensive side of the ball with pick 12 and pick 20. And now you get the help that high-powered offense be able to compete not only in the NFC East, but potentially give yourself a chance. But I will caution and will pause, not get too overexcited, because we know how the seasons go for the Dallas Cowboys. And guys, that is no slight to y'all. I'm just trying to speak the facts here. We know that a lot of the times when you guys look prime and ready to go out there and make a run, Jerry Jones gets to run in his mouth. Coaches can't calm Jerry down. There's a bunch of stuff that's in the media, and yeah, it kind of deters all the plans that you guys have heading into that season. Now, we already know that there are some things going on in the Dallas locker room, at least money-wise, with George Pickens. Was franchise tag, is going to have to negotiate a long-term deal. But George Pickens looks happy, at least right now on social media. We're going to get through the draft. We're going to get through the summer. We'll see if a deal comes. Hey, I'm just saying, Jerry, when you play this waiting game, it puts a lot of pressure on you, because we just seen Jackson Smith and Jigba go out there and reset the wide receiver market. I'm not going out there and campaigning that George Pickens is going to get $40 million per year, but the longer you wait, the more pressure you're going to put on yourself to make a deal happen for yourself and George Pickens to help you and the franchise moving forward. When you go out there, you want to be solid as a GM, in my personal opinion, and obviously I'm not a GM. But when we look at the evidence, we see time and time again that the GMs that go out there and get the deals done early typically place themselves in a better position to be successful than waiting until guys come along, reset the market, get extra money, do other things. And now the player that you're supposed to have been paying, that you ultimately knew that you had to pay, Jerry Jones, they get ticked off. They're not happy anymore because you're taking all day, and the other guys, they're getting paid, they money on. So Jerry Jones, the ball is in your court, brother. Get it done. I don't know what's a really good deal for George Pickens. Me, I'm thinking maybe something around 28 to 30 million is what I am anticipating. But that's not to say that's what George Pickens is looking for. I understand now. If he coming when he talking about he want $40 million, I'm sorry, buddy, you can't get it. But I think a fair offer for George Pickens will be around 28 to 30 million per season, and that should be good for both sides. At least that's what I'm anticipating. I guess we're going to just have to see and wait, and this probably be a long discussion over the offseason because that's just how Jerry Jones like it. But kudos to him for trying to go on out there and get Maxx Crosby to bring on to the team, because that's just what's you got to go out there. When a player like that becomes available, you have to go out there and see if you can obtain that. And I really appreciate him for not even trying to cough up both of his first round picks. I feel like the offers were strong, and hey, they didn't like it. They liked the Ravens offer better. And ultimately, those guys are going to be good now with the Ravens getting them back and all the additions they made over free agency. Jerry Jones made some moves during free agency, not a lot of them, but some. And then you was able to acquire an additional draft pick by trading away Osa. So kudos to both sides. It is what it is, but that's the news for today. Hey, I appreciate y'all, because that is it for me today, man. Before you get up out of here, again, let us know which prospect in the NFL draft that you want to hear us talk about, and we will do our best to accommodate you all on breaking down the players, bringing it to the forefront, letting you guys know what we think about them, what could they potentially land, what's going to hurt them, what's going to help them. Just a legit breakdown from football guys that love the game, man. But hey, I appreciate y'all. Make sure you always love football. Y'all already know, man. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
This has been a presentation